Well, forget Charles and Camilla, William and Kate, Harry and Meghan, the royals paving a new future for monarchs.
When the palace got ready for Catherine's coronation, no one expected her to make a shocking demand. She stated she would not take the crown unless Camilla's family were removed from royal matters. For weeks, excitement built up, and royal insiders talked about floral arrangements, security plans, and meaningful moments that would shape the new queen's legacy. But underneath the glitter of state jewels and ceremonial practices was a tension no one wanted to mention. Behind the luxurious walls, Catherine, Princess of Wales, was not celebrating. She was refusing. The subtle signs of defiance. Usually calm and composed, Catherine began canceling meetings with coronation planners and turning down invitations to pre-coronation events. Her aides noticed her behavior and grew worried. At first they thought she was just tired, but soon it became clear that something deeper was wrong. Catherine stopped answering requests for protocol reviews altogether. During a meeting with King Charles, Prince William, and 2 advisors, everything changed. In a private room, Catherine firmly stated that she would not be crowned unless Camilla's family was removed entirely from royal duties. The room fell silent. Charles, taken aback and visibly upset, tried to convince her otherwise, but Catherine remained firm. She would not compromise. Catherine's strong stance stemmed from her concerns over Camilla's growing influence, which had been bothering her for years. However, it was more than just Camilla herself. Catherine was worried about how Camilla's children and grandchildren were becoming part of the monarchy. She felt protective of her children and their future in the royal line. For Catherine, this was not just personal. It was about the legacy she would support by taking the crown. The situation quickly became chaotic. Charles's supporters panicked, some telling him to hold his ground, while others suggested he make peace with Catherine. Camilla, present during this meeting, reportedly left the room in tears. In hushed conversations, aides considered postponing the coronation or changing it altogether. The palace press office worked hard to keep the story from leaking, but it was too late. News of Catherine refuses the crown spread quickly across Europe, putting the monarchy at risk of a public relations disaster. For Catherine, this was not about the headlines, it was about the integrity of the crown. Her demands were not out of anger, they represented her principles. By refusing the crown under these conditions, she asked for a change. To truly understand the impact of Catherine's stance, we must look back at how her concerns about Camilla's family began growing inside the palace. The clash of legacies. Bloodline versus blended family. Catherine and Camilla come from very different families, and there has been a quiet conflict for years. Catherine's entry into royalty was based on self-control, discipline, and a strong commitment to tradition. She joined the royal family not to gain power, but to honor its history and rules. Her upbringing taught her to respect the legacy of the crown. For Catherine, being royal meant taking on a serious responsibility passed down through generations. Camilla's path to royalty was unlike Catherine's. She did not come from a royal bloodline, but worked hard to create her place. Her relationship with Charles began as a scandal, but it became accepted and official over time. However, her entrance into the royal family brought questions about her legitimacy and the respect she received. As Camilla's family began appearing more often at royal events, it troubled Catherine. This issue went deeper than just appearances. There was a stark contrast between William's bloodline, the heirs of Diana, and Camilla's grandchildren from her previous marriage. Traditionalists felt upset as events meant for royal heirs began to include unfamiliar faces. Children without royal blood were suddenly treated as if they belonged to the monarchy. Catherine, who had worked hard for approval, saw Camilla's family benefiting from support and favoritism. Whispers about tension circulated among palace staff. While the media did not openly report this divide, it was growing. Catherine felt frustrated as she watched Camilla's grandchildren participate in public events and receive recognition that should have been reserved for direct royal descendants. Each event felt like an encroachment, and the royal legacy seemed to be watered down. Charles, possibly blinded by his feelings, dismissed Catherine's worries, viewing them as emotional reactions rather than a serious threat to the institution. Behind closed doors, Catherine began to act carefully. Insiders noted that she requested changes to seating arrangements, avoided joint family events, and arranged separate outings for her children. These moves were subtle efforts to distance George, Charlotte, and Louis from Camilla's influence. It was not about animosity, it was about protecting her heritage. Though many saw these actions as unplanned or coincidental, Those close to the palace recognized them as a silent stance from a future queen who saw changes in the monarchy that concerned her. Despite her private frustrations, Catherine remained silent in public. She smiled, greeted people, and sat next to Camilla at church. Yet, internally, she felt a strong conflict brewing. Her silence was part of a strategy. She waited for the right moment to turn her quiet resistance into explicit action. Although she stayed silent for years, one public moment would spark the reaction that led her to take a stand. The incident that ignited the crisis. It was supposed to be a family-friendly public event, but a brief moment between Prince Louis and Camilla's grandson led to a royal crisis that no one anticipated. The gardens of Windsor had been turned into a lovely gathering to show a modern, blended royal family. However, beneath the smiles and warmth, tensions simmered. As the children played under the watchful eyes of attendants and photographers, an unsettling scene unfolded behind the hedges. Camilla's grandson reportedly pushed Prince Louis and mocked him loudly enough that nearby staff froze. The moment lasted only seconds, but its impact was felt throughout the palace. Catherine's response was immediate and cold. She did not shout or scold. She walked away, refusing to return to her seat beside Camilla. Palace aides quickly stepped in to manage the situation, but those who knew Catherine understood what had just happened. This wasn't just a mother reacting to a misbehaving child. It was the breaking point for a woman who felt royal boundaries had become too blurred. For the rest of the day, Catherine and Camilla exchanged no words, no smiles or glances, creating a noticeable gap. Meanwhile, William was furious. Known for his calm demeanor, he stormed into a meeting with security, demanding to know how a non-royal child could physically confront Louis, the son of a direct heir. His anger was both paternal and symbolic. The heir to the throne had been publicly embarrassed by a child with no royal status. William realized this incident was about more than just Louis. It was about the future and the crown's values. Despite multiple media outlets capturing the incident, the footage was never released. Press offices were instructed to avoid mentioning it, and outlets were encouraged to follow the official line. However, the silence sparked online speculation. Anonymous palace staff leaked information, and body language experts analyzed every frame. Hashtags circulated, questioning who deserved to be in the royal spotlight. Catherine stood at the center of the chaos, silent but firm. That single moment changed her. Her child had been mocked, and she decided she would no longer accept the blending of families. She would no longer sit quietly while tradition was twisted. For Catherine, this was more than jealousy. It was about protecting the monarchy and her children from becoming pawns amid changing times. From that day on, things changed. Catherine's stance hardened, and she became determined. No more blurred lines, no more forced smiles, no more compromises. The monarchy had always been about blood, duty, and legacy. Catherine was ready to defend that legacy fiercely. The deep wounds of silent betrayal. Catherine's pain came from years of silent betrayals as Camilla's family became part of the monarchy. Although she seemed like the perfect royal wife, she was struggling behind her smile. Each year she saw power shift toward Camilla's family, and every change felt like a betrayal to her and her children. Catherine often spoke privately with Princess Anne, who understood the importance of tradition. Anne told Catherine to protect the line, which became a guiding principle for her. As time passed, Charles dismissed her concerns, telling her that the family was evolving. Catherine felt increasingly isolated because she couldn't challenge the king's choices. Despite her strong appearance, she often withdrew, wandering the palace grounds in tears about the monarchy's future and what it meant for her kids. She held on to Queen Elizabeth's legacy of honor, order, and duty as a support. However, Catherine felt the legacy was slipping away with each decision favoring Camilla's family. The crown no longer felt like a symbol of stability. Instead, it felt like a battlefield. As pressure grew, palace officials urged Catherine to agree and maintain unity. However, unity based on silence felt like giving up, and she was never one to give up. When news of her ultimatum leaked, it became a public controversy. The monarchy entered damage control mode as the headline "Future Queen Refuses the Crown" spread worldwide. The palace press, usually tightly controlled, struggled to respond amid the chaos. Camilla's supporters, angry over the leak, held emergency meetings. Camilla saw Catherine's ultimatum as a betrayal that could threaten her carefully crafted image. In the middle of the turmoil, Charles struggled to stay loyal to both women, while William faced the tough choice between supporting his wife and standing by his father, who wanted to strengthen his second marriage. As tensions grew, the royal family was called to Balmoral for an emergency meeting, but Catherine's absence was telling. She had made her stance clear. With coronation plans uncertain and the monarchy in doubt, staff whispered that they had never seen the palace so divided. The public roared in support of Catherine, flooding social media with hashtags like #QueenOnHerTerms. The media shifted from surprise to portraying her as a principled defender of tradition, and public opinion turned strongly in her favor. Catherine had more influence outside the palace than inside for the first time in decades. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Queen Camilla fought hard for her legacy. She demanded a private meeting with Catherine, which led to a heated exchange filled with accusations. Camilla claimed Catherine was trying to erase her from the monarchy, revealing their mutual resentment. Rumors about Catherine suggested she was manipulative, and Camilla's allies tried to damage her reputation through whispers. The competing stories strained the royal household, leaving Charles between his loyalty to Camilla and the rising public support for Catherine. Beneath these personal conflicts was a more profound identity crisis for the monarchy. Should it adapt through inclusion or stick to tradition? Rumors even suggested Camilla might step down, threatening to leave if her family was sidelined. Tensions escalated, and just when things peaked, an unexpected royal figure stepped in to change everything. Princess Anne had not spoken publicly for years, but she decided to act when the monarchy faced a severe crisis. In a private meeting with Charles, William, and Catherine, she shared a sealed letter from Queen Elizabeth II. The letter stated, "The crown must remain with those of the blood." This revelation shocked Charles, who struggled with conflicting loyalties. Anne then fully supported Catherine, urging Charles to respect her. She warned that ignoring Catherine could lead to losing public support. This moment shifted how people viewed the situation, making Camilla's family seem unwelcome guests. The pressure on Charles increased. Meanwhile, Camilla reportedly broke down in tears, realizing the conflict was no longer just about two women, but rather a battle between legacy and change, with Anne backing Catherine. The Queen's hidden decree. Catherine's future became clearer with Anne's powerful voice supporting her. The real change came from a hidden royal decree found in the archives at Windsor. This decree, written by Queen Elizabeth, had never been made public. As tensions grew in the monarchy, archivists reviewed personal letters from the late Queen, leading to a surprising discovery. They found a document in Elizabeth's handwriting. It stated her belief that only direct blood descendants should take on royal duties after her reign. This decree, never shared before, validated Catherine's views. She felt relief, not triumph, knowing her thoughts about the monarchy were correct. This was a difficult moment for Charles. He struggled between his love for Camilla and his loyalty to his mother's legacy. The decree made it clear that Camilla's family would not have roles in royal duties or titles. After this was revealed, Camilla's stepchildren were officially left out of future royal plans, removing their influence from the coronation preparations. Catherine's vision gave the monarchy a new direction and shaped a new coronation plan that honored the Queen's wishes. When Catherine and William entered Westminster Abbey, the crowd welcomed them with loud applause, showing support for a monarchy that embraced its history and values. Catherine's speech recognized those before her and confirmed the monarchy's commitment to bloodlines, legacy, and destiny.